I've talked to buyers who have spent months researching condos. They've looked at the buildings, they've compared strata fees, they've mapped out the walkability, and then at some point, something shifts. They start wondering if a townhome may be a better fit for their lifestyle. That question, it comes up more than you'd think. If you're thinking about buying a condo, this video, it might prevent you from making a huge mistake. I'm Mark with KelownaCondos.ca. Today, I'm going to break down townhome living and why it might be a better fit. Before I get into it, I want to be clear. This isn't a condos versus townhome video. They don't really attract the same buyer, and one isn't better than the other. When I sit down with somebody, I ask them three things: the lifestyle they want, the price range they're working with, and where they want to be in the city. Once I understand those three things, the right fit, it usually is pretty clear. And here's what I've noticed. If someone has an active lifestyle, if they need storage, and they love spending time outside, a townhome often isn't the better option. It's the only option. So let's start with space. Townhomes are almost always larger than condos in the same price range. You're getting multiple floors, more square footage, and a layout that feels closer to a house than an apartment. For somebody coming from a single-family home, this transition is often needed. Then there's the garage. From the buyers that I've worked with, this is one of the top reasons why people end up choosing a townhome over a condo. They have bikes, skis, paddleboards, tools, seasonal gear. In Kelowna, people are active and they have stuff. A garage, it means you have a place to put everything without having to decide what stays and what goes. Outdoor space is another big one. A condo will give you a balcony, but a townhome, it usually gives you a patio, a small balcony, or both. If you have a dog, or you like to garden, or if you just want to sit outside without looking directly into another unit, that private ground level patio matters. Noise is another thing worth mentioning. In a condo, you're going to have neighbors above you and below you. In a townhome, you share a wall. So a heavy-footed walker, it won't be an issue. I live in a townhome, and I have never heard my neighbor. To be fair, I have an amazing, great neighbor. Here's something a lot of buyers don't realize. Some of Kelowna's most popular condo developments, they have townhome units as well. One Water, Sopa Square, and Movala all have townhomes. And if you want space and amenities, these are great options. The first thing to understand, though, is that these townhome units are significantly larger than the condos in the same development. And that size difference is going to drive up the strata fees. If you take One Water as an example, the strata fees run roughly 63 cents per square foot. So if you're in a 1,300 square foot condo, that's $819 a month. But if you're in a 1,900 square foot townhome, the strata fees are going to be $1,200. You're getting a lot more space, but you're paying for it. The other thing to know is that these units, they aren't all the same in terms of access and feel. Movala here is the standout. Their townhome units, they have a private street side entrance, which gives them a completely different feel from the rest of the building. They also have a rooftop terrace with a lake view. Sopa Square and One Water are different. The townhome units there, they're going to be accessed from inside and they're on an upper level rather than the street. So you're still going to get the larger footprint and layout, but it has more of a building feel than the street level townhouse. In terms of pricing, these units, they sit at the higher end of the townhome market given the location and the amenities that come with the development. One Water townhomes are usually around $1 million. Movala is new, and those units have been selling around $1.2 million. These townhomes are for the buyer who wants the townhome size and the resort amenities, but they give up the garage and that small strata feel. Townhomes aren't the right fit for everyone. The biggest trade-off is walkability. There are townhomes in the downtown core and Pandosy, but you're going to pay significantly more for those locations. Most townhome complexes in Kelowna, they're going to be farther out. If being steps from the lake and restaurants and everything kind of walkable downtown is a priority, a condo, it might be a better option. But if you're okay with a short drive to get there, the value that you're going to get in a townhome that's a little further out is hard to ignore. Stairs are also a thing to think about. Most townhomes that aren't in the 55 plus communities are going to be 2 or 3 floors. So you'll be doing stairs. For a lot of people, that's not an issue. But if you're planning to be in this home for the next 15 to 20 years, it's something that you should think about. But the good news is there are a handful of townhome complexes in Kelowna that they have elevators built in. This is going to take that concern completely off the table. And amenities, Most townhome complexes don't have a pool or a gym. You're trading those for the garage and the outdoor space. For a lot of townhome buyers, that's an easy trade. You need to decide though what's important for you. In my experience, there are a few type of buyers that consistently end up in townhomes and they're happy with the choice. The first is the downsizer coming from a single family home. They want to get rid of the maintenance of the house, but they're not ready to give up the garage and the storage and outdoor space. For that buyer, a condo often feels like it's just too much of a compromise. In Kelowna, there are some really well-run 55-plus townhome complexes that fit this perfectly. Balmoral and River Run and Sandpoint are great examples. They're gated, you have an attached garage, all the yard work is taken care of. It's a very comfortable step down from a house without feeling like you've given everything up. These complexes, they generally range from the mid 700,000s up to around 900,000. This is going to depend on the size and the updates. The second is somebody who loves the outdoors, somebody with a large dog, or someone who expects family to visit often. They need the space. They need somewhere to put the bikes and all the gear, and a townhome just works better for that lifestyle. I had a client who lived in a downtown condo for 8 years, and they absolutely loved it. It started as a second home, and it quickly became their primary home. It was in a great building, and it had a great location. But over time, they started having more and more guests come to visit, and the space just wasn't working anymore. So they moved into a townhome a few blocks away, and they haven't looked back. For families, the Wilden area in the North End has some great newer townhome developments that are well worth looking at. You get good size, modern finishes, and access to trails right outside your door. Pricing there typically runs from the mid 700,000s up to around 900K or so. This again is going to depend on the unit and if you're backing onto a lake or something. And then there are buyers who want to be in a walkable neighborhood, but they still want the townhome feel. There are a few boutique complexes in Pandosy and downtown that deliver that. A good example is 959 Manhattan. It's got a great downtown location close to everything. There are also a couple of smaller boutique buildings on Gore Street in Pandosy. These are trendy, walkable, and completely different feel from the larger complexes. But these boutique options, they're going to cost you though. Prices start around 1.5 million. For anybody with mobility in mind, Gyro Beach Townhomes and Cameron Mews, they both have units with elevators. Not all of them, but some of them. That combination of townhome living with elevator access, it's hard to find, but it does exist. You're just going to have to wait for one to come up. There's a common assumption that strata fees in townhomes are always going to be lower than condos, and that's not always true. A bare bones townhome complex with no amenities, it can have lower strata fees. Some of the larger, newer complexes in Kelowna, they're going to run in the $300 a month range. But an older complex with extensive landscaping, flower beds, a gated entry, and amenities, they'll have fees that reflect that. Sandstone is a good example. You're paying for extensive landscaping, water features between most of the buildings, and a lot of amenities. And it shows. Those fees are around $500 a month, and it doesn't include your exterior maintenance. What most townhome strata fees don't include is the cost of running a full amenity building. There's no concierge, there's no pool maintenance, and there's no gym equipment. So comparing that to a luxury condo building, the fees are going to be a lot lower. But if you compare that to a condo with no amenities, they can be similar or even higher. It's going to depend on the complex. And if you're looking at a townhome inside of a large development like One Water, the fees are going to reflect that, both the size of the unit and the amenities that come with the building. That's the trade-off for getting a townhome footprint in a full amenity building. The number to focus on, though, just isn't the monthly fee. It's what the fee covers and whether the reserve fund is healthy. But this is going to be true for condos and townhomes. So is a townhome the right fit? Well, it depends on what you're looking for. If you need the space, the storage, and a garage, and some outdoor space, then you should look at townhomes. If walkability and price are a priority, a condo, it might still be the answer. Most of the people that I've helped buy a townhome are happy with the choice. If you're ready to find the right townhome, reach out. You'll find the link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.